Hi folks, and welcome to another online maths tutorial from CD Masterworks Limited. So we've got a wee module from the Relationships and Calculus unit today. We're going to be looking at solving quadratic inequalities. So we differentiate this skill at 3 different levels as follows. We'll focus on common factor first, then we'll look at unitary trinomials, and then lastly we'll finish with non-unitary trinomials. So common factor first, and from National 5 we should know how to solve quadratic equations, so we're building that in higher by solving quadratic inequalities. So we have to solve x squared minus 4x is less than 0. So this is a 2 key step problem, and what we're going to do first of all is we're going to find the roots. So we should know from National 5 that to find the roots of a quadratic we set it equal to 0 and factorise. So we set it equal to 0, and to factorise this as a common factor of x, so that's going to give us x bracket x minus 4. And then we solve, so x outside the bracket gives us a solution of x equals 0, and we change the sign inside the bracket, so we've got x equals 4, so the roots are 0 and 4. So once we've got the roots, what we do is we sketch the graph. So we've got a minimum because the coefficient of x squared is positive, and we've got roots of 0 and 4 as shown in the graph, and we have to see where this is less than 0. So it's less than 0 when it's below the x-axis, in this kind of coloured in bit here, the bit that's coloured in pink. So this quadratic is less than 0 for all values that lie between 0 and 4. And we write this as follows: 0 is less than x is less than 4. Okay, second example, we're going to solve 6x minus 2x squared is less than 0. So we find the roots again by setting equal to 0 and factorising. This time it's got a common factor of 2x. So this is going to give us 2x bracket 3 minus x. And this gives us two solutions: 2x equals 0, so x equals 0, and 3 minus x equals 0, so x is going to equal 3. So the roots are 0 and 3. Step number 2, as before, we sketch the graph, only this time because x squared is negative, it's going to give us a maximum with roots of 0 and 3. So the graph would look something like this. And we want to know again where it's less than 0. So this time, again, it's going to be below the x-axis. We've got the function being less than 0 in 2 different places, and I'm showing them in pink. So for everything it's going to be less than 0, and for all values that are going to be greater than 3. So we've actually got 2 separate answers to write to represent the 2 shaded bits. So we've got all values for when x is less than 0 and when x is greater than 3. So for all of your solutions, it's either going to lie between, or it's going to be less than and greater than the 2 roots. So here's a few for you to try, and we're going to remove a common factor, we're going to solve, we're going to find the roots, and then we're going to sketch the graphs. And if you're working on these at home, pause the video now. Okay, you've unpaused the video, let's go over some answers. So we have x is less than minus 5, x is greater than 0. We've got x lies between 0 and 8. X lies between 0 and 1, x lies between 0 and 12, x is less than 0, x is greater than 3, x lies between minus 5 and 0, x lies between 0 and 5, x is less than or equal to 0, x is greater than or equal to 5, x is less than 0, x is greater than 6, and x is less than 0, x is greater than 2. Okay, moving on to unitary trinomials. So to solve something like x squared minus x minus 6 is less than 0. So again, it's find the roots, which we do by setting equal to 0 and factorising. So this one is going to be x minus 3x plus 2 equals 0, giving us roots of x equals 3 and x equals minus 2. So sketching the graph, again, it's a minimum because x squared is positive, with roots of minus 2 and 3 is shown. And we want to know where this function is less than 0, so anywhere below the x-axis. So that's going to be in between the minus 2 and the 3, in between the roots, and again we write it as minus 2 is less than x is less than 3. Second example, 8 minus 2x minus x squared is less than 0. So again, set equal to 0 and factorise. This is going to give us 4 plus x, 2 minus x, which is giving us roots of minus 4 and 2. Sketching the graph, this one's going to be a maximum because the coefficient of x squared is negative, and it's got roots of minus 4 and 2 shown. We want to know whether this is less than 0, so below the x-axis. So that's where we've got the two answers again, here and here. So when x is less than minus 4 and when x is greater than 2. So here are 10 for you to try, and if you're working on these at home, pause the video now. Okay, you've unpaused the video, so let's do some answers. X is less than minus 4, x is greater than minus 1, x lies between minus 8 and 2, x lies between 3 and 8 inclusive, x lies between minus 3 and 4, x is less than minus 8, x is greater than 10, x lies between minus 4 and minus 1 inclusive, x lies between minus 2 and 7 inclusive, x is less than or equal to minus 4, x is greater than or equal to 7, x is less than minus 5, x is greater than 3, and x is less than 3, x is greater than 7. So our last outcome we look at is the more complex factorising with non-unitary trinomials. So we've got to solve something like 2x squared plus 5x minus 3 is less than 0. So again, set equal to 0 and then factorise. This one using your table or other methods, you would come up with 2x minus 1x plus 3. So that's going to give us two solutions of 2x minus 1 equals 0 and x plus 3 equals 0. So solving them would give us solutions of x equals a half and x equals minus 3. Sketching our minimum graph with roots of a half and minus 3 would look something like this. Where is it less than 0? So below the x-axis, in between the roots, so x is going to lie between minus 3 and a half. So then we've got 2 minus 5x minus 3x squared is less than 0. So again, set equal to 0 and factorise. Tricky, I won this one. So that's 2 plus x, 1 minus 3x equals 0. So two solutions of 2 plus x equals 0, 1 minus 3x equals 0, giving us roots of x equals minus 2 and x equals positive a third. Sketching our maximum with roots of minus 2 and a third, so less than 0, below the x-axis, so here and here. So our two answers of x is less than minus 2, x is greater than a third. So here's 10 more complicated trinomials to factorise, to find the roots, to sketch the graph, and to ultimately solve the quadratic inequalities. So if you're working on these at home, pause the video now. Okay, you've unpaused the video, let's go over some answers. So x is less than minus 3 over 2, x is greater than minus 1, x is lying between minus a third and 5, x lies between minus 3 and minus a fifth inclusive, x lies between minus 1 and 5 over 2, x is less than minus a third, x is greater than a half, x lies between minus half and a fifth inclusive, x lies between minus 2 and a third inclusive, x is less than or equal to minus a third, x is greater than or equal to 2 over 5, x is less than minus a third, x is greater than a quarter, and x is less than minus a fifth, x is greater than a sixth. And that concludes our online tutorial for quadratic inequalities. I hope you found that useful and stay tuned for the next one. Okay, bye for now.